Hi, my name is Cameron Four. I'm a adoption product manager with Omnissa, and in this video, we're going to walk you through how to use the latest user and device timeline search capabilities within DEX for Horizon. So to begin, click the search bar at the top. Make sure you're on the Users tab, and we're going to look for the C4 user. Once the user record comes back and notice that it says Horizon, I can click that user account, and their timeline will load. Now, when the timeline first loads, it defaults to the last 24 hours for the user, showing you the most recent data. If you had a session that wasn't in this time range, you can change the time frame that you're looking for. So if it was in the last week, the last 2 weeks, you can quickly choose those options, and the timeline will update and show you the relevant metrics for that time frame. Now, one other thing to note is when the timeline loads, it defaults to the issues filter. So this means that we're only displaying metrics that were considered a poor level threshold within the intelligence platform. And these thresholds are configurable. So if you set CPU needs to be at least 95% before it's considered poor, then that will basically filter out this metric if the CPU was never above 95% within the time frame selected. So let's go back to the last 24 hours because that's our default view. And here we can see this particular user is having some CPU spike problems within the time frame. We can see there's some protocol packet loss, some WAN packet loss, but we can also see the corresponding application that's causing the CPU spike. Now, in this case, if we want to see additional details for CPU metrics, we can click the CPU callout box. The callout box will appear, and again, I can trend the processes over time. As you can note, Google Chrome is the top running process, and I can also confirm that in the chart below. So the chart below will automatically show you for the time frame selected the maximum processor spike for any application that ran during that period. It'll also show you the maximum memory spike once you click on the memory chart. But in this case, again, Google Chrome is the one that's causing those spikes. We can see this running a maximum of 99% with the average of 81%. Now, closing this out, again, if I want to see all the metrics, I can click the Overview tab, and that will display all relevant metrics for the session in this particular pool. Again, I can look at things like login duration. I can see what they are between the various sessions. I can see how much memory I'm using. I can see it's basically 36%. And if I click on memory, again, I get a similar callout box, and it will show me which applications are using the most memory over time. And again, in this case, we can see it's primarily Google Chrome, maximum of 11% with an average of 5%. Now, you also have the ability to filter for other processes running in the background. Maybe you're worried about Microsoft Paint. Probably not a big issue. But in this particular case, again, if I search for Paint, I'll see that application, and I'll see its maximum memory usage for that time period. Other events you'll get are application crashes, app hangs. So if you see no dots within the box, that means that those events did not happen in the relevant time period. Also notice that protocol and no other last mile telemetry metrics, they're color coded for you automatically. Currently, we show them as bars. So if it's blue, that basically means it's good. If it's yellow or red, that means it's at a very high threshold beyond our best practices. So here we can see overall protocol latency was pretty good. A couple of spikes up to 115 milliseconds. We can see packet loss was roughly 1% from time to time. And we can see there was a period that was when packet loss up to 25%. Again, here we can see the additional top running application, which is Google Chrome, and it's going to display for me because again, it's running above that threshold. Now, other filters we offer are top apps by CPU. So again, if I just want to look at applications by CPU usage, again, this is confirming Google Chrome's still the highest, and it shows me the next highest, which was Desktop Windows Manager. Networking filter, again, that just shows networking metrics, so protocol as well as last mile telemetry coming from the client. And again, I have my saved views as well. So again, this will save the views. You can customize the metrics the way you want and edit those as you need to. Now, other date and time controls, as I mentioned, you could do last 7 days, last 14 days. You can also choose date ranges. So if you need to go back for like the last 3 weeks, you can do that once you click off of the chart. The chart will update. It will show you the relevant metrics. And again, if you only want to see issues for those time ranges, just click the issues filter and it will just display those relevant metrics. You can also click on events. So events are going to be things around like application starts and exits. You also get app crash and app hang. Just keep in mind that it's only going to display those metrics if they occurred within the relevant time window. So again, if I'm looking for just application crashes, if any existed within the last 24 hours, it will show them. If you don't have any app crashes, again, it's not going to find that data. So here I'll clear these events, I'll clear this time frame. And that basically shows me how to do troubleshooting with a particular tool. This also works for RDSH farm. So let me collapse the desktop pool. And here again, I have the relevant RDSH farm. And I can see for the selected time range that there were some issues, but it was mostly related to connectivity. And again, this allows me to do my analysis really quickly without sifting through a lot of metrics. Now, if I just want to look at the last date, now keep in mind we chose a range here. If I click back, I can go back and say, okay, well, just show me the last 12 hours. And again, that's going to show you the relevant metrics for this particular session. And I can see that, hey, Wi-Fi signal strength was a little poor. And I'm also seeing that Google Chrome is starting to run pretty hot. If I click Overview, again, I'll see all of the relevant RSH metrics coming from that particular server for my session. And again, I can still click on the top apps by CPU. And again, on this particular host, it's still showing that Google Chrome is still running hot, 93%. Average utilization of 66% for this particular time frame. You can also look at the other applications as well running on the host. So again, if I click on top apps by CPU, you can see that Desktop Windows Manager, Windows Explorer, Blast Worker, these are all running processes, but they're running so low, they're not really showing any spikes or any other concerns at that time frame. All right, let's change context now. Let's look at it from a device perspective. So again, context switches a little bit. Now we're looking at it for searching for a virtual machine. It could be a non-persistent, it could be a persistent virtual machine, but it can also be an RDSH host. And here we can see that the machine loads. I can see CPU utilizations showing me the issues for the last 24 hours. I can see that the user who was connected to it had some packet loss. And I can also see that Chrome was driving those performance issues. Again, if I click on the chart, it's going to have the call out. It's going to do the exact same calculations for me. It's going to look at both max and average of the top running processes. So you'll quickly know within that time frame, which processes were driving the most workload. So switching gears just a little bit more. Now, if we click Overview, you're going to see some relevant metrics that are a little bit different or unique to the VMs. So here we can see how many users were impacted on a device. So the term impacted basically means that there was a calculation of the data and we determined at least one metric was beyond the normal threshold. So we considered it impacted. So on a VDI, if it's persistent, again, you're only going to have one user at a time. If it's RDSH, you could have multiple users logged in at a time having the impacted flag. And again, just kind of running through the metrics here, we can see things like Wi-Fi signal strength, bandwidth. Again, we can see top running processes within the device. If I want to see what the top running CPU processes were, again, just like with the user timeline, I'll click it. But again, it's showing me the relevant metrics for the VM and not necessarily an individual user. Okay, so let's now look at an RDSH host. So if I type in RDSH, I think we have at least one. Yeah, I'm going to pick a one. And again, the timeline will load. Here we can see there's currently two sessions. Both of them are connected, no disconnected sessions. And again, top issues at the moment is that we do have one process running pretty hot. And again, if we just want to look at top apps by CPU, just to kind of confirm what other apps are running hot, we can see it's primarily Google Chrome. Nothing else is running high on that machine. If I click Overview, again, I get to see all the metrics. Again, I can see the CPU spike, but it's not quite to the threshold where it goes red. So that's why it wasn't showing up in the issues filter. Again, it's got to get above 95% in this environment. And I can confirm, right? So I click on the CPU usage timeline. I can see Google Chrome's running at 93, didn't quite make it to 95, average of 16% for that time period. You can also see the session count. So here we have roughly 3 users. Again, demo environment, so relatively low count. We can see the impacted flag. There was only one user that had performance impact during this time period. Again, we can see connectivity for protocol to the RDSH host. And then again, we can see the running applications as well. So filters still work the same. So you can look at top sessions by CPU. So that'll be something new that's available on the RDSH farms. But again, it's going to just kind of filter them for me. So, show me which user's driving the most workload. You can also do top apps by memory. And again, it's going to just resort your chart. Again, just kind of focusing on memory as the primary metric. And then again, just going back to issues. That will update again to show me problems for that time period. Now, the metrics are historical. So again, if you need to go back further in time, looking at the last 7 days of data, you can do that as well. So you do have the ability to click that. It'll update and show you the relevant metrics for that time frame. All right, that concludes today's demonstration for the latest user and device timeline. Look forward to additional updates as additional features are released. Thank you.